Hey guys, Youngblood with you, and what I wanted to do here was actually show off the reclaimer now that it's available in 3.1. And we're going to basically start towards the rear of the ship at the bottom, and then kind of work our way up and then get through the interior of the ship. First things first, apologies, I know there's some camera shake, it's pretty hard to watch, so I'm going to try and limit how much I'm moving my mouse around, but at the same time when I'm trying to show you things it may be hard to avoid. Also, just so you know, this ship is very, very large, so you're going to need to kind of just know that this is going to be a little bit longer of a video. So starting off in like the lower portion of the rear of the ship, we've got the general cargo room, which is a very large space. Now, connecting all of these different components, or these different parts of the ship, is going to be kind of this centralized elevator available that takes you up and down. You've got these call lift options, and then you get this big kind of freight elevator that's available inside the ship, and you get an idea of how much stuff you could actually put in here and how you can actually load it into your cargo areas. You do have a couple of different options. You've got the panel on each side of the actual elevator itself. And then on here you get all of these different areas. So we're going to kind of go from bottom to top, and I'm going to take you up to the Salvage Hold, where we get this nice slow elevator ride. But basically we get up here and you can see you're going to get these little, I guess, protectors that are going to kind of go down, and then the door opens up so you can get in. So Salvage Hold, this is going to be basically stuff that you've already completed your processing. It's basically good to be sold. And you can tell it is a very spacious area as well. Now, you don't need to use the freight elevator for everything. You'll get a better view of this as we go further upstairs, but you end up having this salvage lift that makes it easier for you to kind of move things from top to bottom. So, you know, if you're processing at the rear of the ship, then you can go ahead and put it down here in the hold. Or, you know, likewise, if you're processing towards the front of the area, it may be better to kind of use the main cargo lift. But the nice thing is you have options, especially if you're dealing in very large quantities, which I think everybody's hoping you get to do in a ship like this. So let's go ahead and go up another flight to salvage processing. And there is one option in here that I'm not going to show you because I believe it's currently bugged, but that's going to be the exit to surface. The other reason I'm not going to show you that is because I'm actually in Arena Commander right now because the frames are a lot more steady when you do it that way. So there's not really anywhere to exit to outside of just space. So this very, very large section here is going to be your salvage processing area. Again, the cargo elevator is available at the end, but ultimately this is going to be where you kind of come in and you are working on refining and doing things and basically getting the stuff that you've collected into a state that you want to sell it in. Above, you see that you've got these different tracks and kind of crane systems that I'm sure you'll be able to operate from somewhere to help you move stuff around, whether that actually be from just one place to another or maybe to one of the cargo lifts. But the size here is very, very, very large. I mean, it's a significant space. So, all right, and let's go up to the top section of the rear of the ship. It's kind of nice so that, basically you can kind of see it just a little bit as you're looking around. But it's what's known as the Salvage Balcony, and I think this is where people are going to be operating the kind of crane system are probably going to want to stand. Also, those that are kind of overseeing or kind of supervising the process, basically those of you that are barking orders at other people. This is where you kind of get oversight into everything that's happening below. I've looked around. I haven't found controls yet for the cranes. I haven't found controls yet for the cargo elevator at the back. So I don't know if they're just not implemented yet or if those are things that are going to be managed from other parts of the ship because there are some crew stations that are actually scattered about. But there is no ladder or anything to take you down to this level. You need to utilize the elevator to move about the ship. All right, so that's the rear. Let's go ahead and take you up to the crew habitation area. Habitation deck. In addition to the camera shake that's present, I think I've got some mouse issues and mouse pad issues, so I think that's making things a little bit worse. All right, so you'll notice everything that we did before, we exited that side. For the hab area, we're going to actually exit this area. They said in the development this is going to be a very worn ship. You're supposed to get the idea and impression that things aren't necessarily perfect, that this is a working ship. I'm not sure if the fire is necessarily supposed to be intended or the dripping liquid, but if nothing else, it kind of gives it that grimy impression. So we can go ahead and take this ladder down into what's known as the subdeck. Come on. All right. And down in this subdeck, you get some kind of additional spaces. For example, You've got what I would assume here is the actual main power plant to the ship. It's very large. It looks very angry. It's on fire for some reason. So I don't know if that's just a damage state that they're utilizing. But you do have like this computer terminal that's not actually turned on now. So, you know, an engineer, for example, may be spending some quality time down here in the subdecks. Let's go ahead and head back up. I haven't ever looked back here. Nothing going on, just space. All right, so as we come back up, before you actually get into the habitation area, you do have airlocks on either side of the ship. So there's one here, and there's another on the other side there. So I'm just going to show you one of them because they're basically identical. Doors come up, you get your actual EVA suits, which is great. Close the door so you don't vent people out. You've got a secondary door on this side where you can come in. Nice thing is it's actually, whoop, got some EVA there. Hold on, let me get reoriented. Nice thing is it's actually padded, so when you come back in, hopefully you're not taking damage if you land a little bit hard. Although it looks like there may be some blood on one of these walls, so maybe it's just not as good as I expected it to be. Either way, you can see here's some access to the exterior of the ship, and you can just see how big this son of a bitch actually is. Let's go ahead and close this. We'll go back inside. You do have additional storage here for supplies and medical stuff, and it's basically identical on the other side. And we'll close that. And now let's head into what I would really consider to be the habitation area of this ship. Oop, I got myself turned around. It's not as confusing as the Starfarer. It's a much better layout, but it is very large, and I haven't spent a ton of time in here, so yeah, I'm going to get turned around a little bit. You do have writing on the wall, so we got captain's quarters here. So let's go ahead and step in. This is my reclaimer, so I am the captain. In here, you got some storage along the actual rack there. You've got some information displays so you can stay updated on what's happening on your ship. You do have storage and a little mini kitchenette. You've got yourself some lockers for, you know, your suits and stuff. You got your bed. You've got another closet here. And then you've got one of the more fleshed out bathrooms that I've actually seen in the game so far. So a standalone toilet, a sink. Yes, we are vampires right now. The reflections aren't working. And then you get an entire shower area, which is a nice touch. So let's head across the hall, which is where the remainder of your crew are going to be staying. And in here, you've got your standard bunk beds. You've got 4 of them. You've got some closets or kind of lockers on both sides for your crew. You may be wondering why there's 4 beds, but this thing actually has a crew size of probably closer to 11 at full staff. It's because you're not going to want to have everybody sleeping at any one time. Bathroom, sinks, mirror, another example of you being a vampire. And then you get these showers that have these retractable doors on them there too. All right, let's go ahead and head forward in the ship. And this is where we start getting into more of the actual, you know, I guess more useful areas as well. You got your mess hall if you want to actually meet with people. But here's where you actually also have a docking collar that can be accessed on either side. You've got the airlock there. Again, it's padded so you don't kill yourself when you're coming through. And I'll go out the other side just so you can see what it looks like. And here's the mess hall again. You do have some windows looking out the side of the ship, which is a nice touch. I always like the ability to see outside of a ship because the game is beautiful. You don't want to necessarily just look at the ship. You want to take in the surroundings as well. At least I do. And now we really get into kind of the meat and potatoes, otherwise known as the tech deck. Now over here, if you're really worried about your ship going down, you do have escape pods. So we'll go ahead and open this up. You got 3 of them here. There's a couple of these throughout the ship, so you know if the ship really hits the fan, you can get out if you need to. You've got a lot of like components and wiring along the sides. You've got padding again. Some of these come up to actually make seats, which I think is interesting. This is the drone room. We'll go in there in just a second. And then this one, I'm not sure what this actually is, to be completely frank. I think it's just component housing and more engineering functions, or maybe it's your main computing area. But you almost get what looks to be like some server racks and maybe some components here. So if I had to guess, I would say this is your main computer. But I'll have to kind of wait and see until we get some more functionality and to really know what it is. Again, another view into the drone room. So let's go ahead and hop on in there. You got 2 controllers here, or 2 seats I should say. You can get in both of them. Keep in mind the actual I guess, mechanics for operating drones aren't currently present in the game. So you get kind of the standard crew station look. But ultimately, you kind of get the idea. Instead of having this here, what you will have in the future is actually going to be, probably a vision or a kind of a view from the drone, and you're just acting in a remote operator capacity. There are 2 of these seats, so there's one right next to them. So basically, your ship can operate 2 drones at any one time. You might even be able to offload some of that to your computer to kind of automate, but I'm not positive there. And here is your primary drone room. You can see you've got storage for 1, 2, 3, and 4 drones. And then this thing's basically going to be your drone control. You can see it's got a slight elevator to go up and down. The way I envision this happening is it'll slide underneath the drone that you're trying to grab and deploy. It'll then pull it back to this position, and you'll be able to take it off and go up this big kind of door that leads out the top, allowing you to kind of control and then take your salvage around to wherever it needs to be. Okay, let's go ahead and head up. Before we go up, we've got the very fancy gravity generator. You can see it's kind of a big ball of probably iron or something that's rotating around some electricity. I don't know the science there, if there is any of it, but it looks cool. This elevator just kind of takes you down to a couple different floors. It's basically an ulterior option as opposed to using your elevators. Over here, you've got the main elevator, the one that I typically would prefer to use. And then here's where we actually have turret access. The turret's a little bit bugged up here. I can't actually get into it. I don't know if it's just me or if it's everybody at this point. I haven't bothered to check. But you've got kind of this, what looks to be like an airlock around it. So I think what's going to happen is this will probably open up as you get in the seat to make sure that you're not depressurizing the rest of the ship if that turret takes damage. But you can kind of glitch through it right now and see the way that it actually works. It's going to pull you up in and you get control over the top of the ship. So let's go ahead and head down another flight. Go fast. And here we will go ahead and get to the forward elevator. Again, you've got these controls. So basically this one is not nearly as grandiose as the first one. You can basically ascend or descend, so you're going between like 1 or 2 flights. And then this is where you kind of start getting into another crew station. Now, as I mentioned before, you do have the elevator, or the stair access. This is the one that I was talking about. So maybe the elevator's broken. You've got something that's a little bit more permanent there. Over here, you've got what I believe is another escape pod. It's not really labeled, but it kind of seems escape poddy to me. Otherwise, this may be a ladder or something to get you outside of the ship, kind of from the front. I'll probably test that in just a minute, actually. I don't want to do something that's going to kick me out and ruin the recording, though. But from here, you do have, remote turret. So there's weapons around the ship that you can control from here. So you can do it from this station, and you'll see a view from that turret on the screen. Here, what you have is your scanning station, which I think is going to be very important to identify where the good salvage actually is. Another remote turret, and I believe this is another scanning station. So maybe you get some control over that later to say, I want to do various things with this. Like maybe I don't want it to be a scanning station. Maybe I want it to be, I don't know, something else. Maybe you get the flexibility. Maybe you don't. Once we come up here on either side, you've got your tractor operator seats. I don't know why that one's not giving me controls. That one does. Got one on either side, so basically you got people that can start pulling in the salvage that the claw has been cutting up and then moving it around. So you basically, what you get is the ability to control your salvage either through drones or through tractor beams. I think the more likely scenario is probably going to be a combination of both, to where you're actually going to be saying, I'm going to use the tractor beams to pull right off of the claw, but I'm going to use the drones to actually get it loaded into the ship. Again, I think this is another scenario where you have a standard engineering station here, but what it's going to be is, again, a remote view from whatever you're controlling. So probably a remote view from the front of that tractor beam. You've got a station on either side. And then we come down here to the actual, cockpit. On the left, you've got the pilot seat. On the right, you've got the claw operator. Visibility is okay. I mean, it's nothing great. It's an industrial ship, so I'm not necessarily surprised. It's a little bit better than I expected it to be frank, after I saw a kind of concept art of it. Straight ahead, you don't have any problems, but, right here, you end up having a strut that gets in the way. This is all kind of a mess. You're not necessarily getting into like evasive action or anything like that, but, from your point of view, straight ahead, you're not going to run into anything unless you kind of lose track of how large this ship actually is. To give you kind of an idea of the outside of the ship, we'll kind of just do this, and I'll zoom around a little bit. Again, you can see how fat the back end is. That's, again, going to be all of your cargo holds. That's going to be your salvage hold. That's going to be your processing, all of those areas. You also have your, turret on the top front. That's the one that you can actually, control. You've got the massive claw here. And then you've got the kind of light array on the front. And then you've got all the nacelles and everything. But, I mean, frankly, this thing's a beast. I mean, think about it. Like, that's your cockpit right there. And then imagine the size of your person that's sitting there. You can barely see me compared to the scope of this ship. I mean, it's frankly ridiculous. All right, so let's go ahead and get back inside, and I'm going to exit. And okay. The one thing that I didn't show was I think there's an intake at the front of the ship as well. It was kind of that hole that was just below and to the right of the cockpit. But there's also kind of going to be some like doors that will allow you to get stuff in here. But these are the kind of the fancy pants actual shredders. They don't appear to be spinning right now, even though they're kind of going through the processing motion. But it's nice that from the bridge of the ship you're actually able to see this. And I think what you'll probably see is some ability to control these from this station here. But again, that's kind of just speculation. And then lastly, let's see what this does. If there's even any controls in here. Close the door. Looks kind of like a lift. Oh, exit ship. Okay, so I think this is going to be like a kind of a little one-person elevator. Okie dokie, and I'm outside the ship. I suppose I'm EVA'd. It would be nice if it gave me control. There we go. Oh my god, it's even bigger when you're out here. Well, this is a good time to just take a look at the exterior. Full disclosure, I haven't actually been outside of the ship floating around. Look at the size of this claw. Oh my god. The lights here, I think these are probably kind of in a subtle state. I bet they get significantly larger. I think what you're seeing here is actually a tractor beam and a tractor beam, so they are very large. And I think this is going to be... I better turn on my light. Whoa, some collision issues. I think that's going to end up being an input for cargo to kind of get into the processing area, but that's basically just some speculation on my part. I bet this is one of the remote turrets that you can control. It may be pilot controlled though. So there's a turret there. Up top, you've got a big turret. Going a little bit further back, you also have a large turret up top. That's the one that you can kind of access from the crew habitation area. I'm guessing that this is probably... It says drone. So I guess that's your drone room there. I would have expected processing to be somewhere along there as well, but that's your drone room. This ends up being that airlock that kind of comes in back by the crew quarters. And then I'm hoping this is probably going to be... It says maintenance. I would assume this is actually a door that opens up to allow you to enter stuff into the... Well, no, that probably is maintenance because there's more ship. God, this thing is big. So there's your crew turret. So something back here needs to open so you can get cargo in. Honestly, I don't know. Maybe the circular thing pops up and that's where the drones can fit in. Let's take a look at the back of the ship in a little bit more detail. Keep in mind, with a lot of this... salvage gameplay is not really in yet, so there's no real telling how this is going to work out. But what we can see is going to be the elevator right here. So this is what's going to be one of your exits to the surface at the very back of the ship. Obviously, you can do that from the front, which is the elevator that I kind of just went out to get into EVA. Remote turrets back here for sure. And then... I don't know. Maybe some of this opens up. I'm betting everything's done through this elevator, though. So the question is going to be more about where do the drones actually enter to bring stuff back here. I don't have an answer to that at this point. Earlier, I think there was a lot of speculation about what the heck these things are. To me, they just look like very large maneuvering thrusters for a ship of this size. And then let's just take a look at the claw one more time, and then I'll see about getting into the ship from the airlock on top. There's another turret on the bottom. If this isn't the most ridiculous thing you've ever seen in the best way possible, I don't know what to say. I mean, it's like the size of one of those terraformers. Oh, I'm really glad I got one of these. You know, I wasn't even 100% sure that I wanted to have a salvage ship, but I got no regrets. Alright, where'd that airlock go? Are we working? No, we're not working. Okay, and then I guess the last thing I'll say is it's really hard to get one of these in the persistent universe right now. So as far as real like flight model goes, how it's doing on the planet, I'm gonna have to do a follow-up video on that, just for the sole reason that I can do it a little bit here, but the heads-up display isn't working properly, so I don't really know speed or anything like that. What I can say is that it handles a little bit better than I expected to, and I'm guessing that's because I don't have anything actually on board the ship. Yeah, I'm trapped out of the ship. That's all right. Yeah, but I don't have anything in here, so, I mean, it's not fast. The acceleration is very slow. Maneuverability is okay, but at the end of the day, it is it's a big industrial ship, so, but I think based on what I've had out of the Starfarer and kind of the experience of flying that, this has actually been a slightly better experience. I think I just had my expectations set so low on the flight model. But anyway, that's basically it. So hopefully you guys found this interesting. Really cool ship. I cannot wait for 3.2 to get Salvage in, because then all of a sudden it's opening up some serious new gameplay options. But in the meantime, if you guys have questions about any of this, please let me know. Otherwise, I appreciate you all watching. I hope you have yourselves a wonderful day, and take care.